Hey, what is going on, you majestic Magikarp? We got some new, and I think final, we have the full set reveal for the Ninja Spinner set, which is the next major set release over in Japan. Now, I've already talked about a majority of the cards, but there was some new reveals actually a little while ago, but I was sick, so I'm getting back into content right now. So we're going to be going over those in today's video. And speaking of new cards, if y'all ever need any new Pokemon TCG sealed products or singles, the Card Coliseum has got you covered. Go check them out over at pkmcoliseum.com, whether it be the sealed products like I mentioned or singles. They got you. Link will be in the description, and code AzulGG will get you a discount over there as well. So the first one is the Mega Pyro here, 340 HP. It is a stage 1. That's like a decent amount of HP on a stage 1, but I think there's something lacking in the attack department. We got the Ferocious Bellow, Fire Colorless, 80 during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon's attacks do 50 less damage. Not great. And then Big Bang Fire for Fire Colorless, 290. This attack does 10 less damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. I don't know, has there ever been a good attack that has the minus next to it? Base damage minus 4x. I don't think there ever has been an attack that's good, at least not that as long as I've been playing the game that I can remember. Let me know, comment section down below, if there's ever been a good, not just a good card, but a good card that was actually played competitively. I don't have high hopes for the Mega Pyroar. Yeah, it just doesn't have that much going on for it. And in general, Fire still feels a little bit off. I think Fire's true hope does come through that Delphox, of course. We got the Delibird here. Got the Happy Present attack. Both players may attach up to 3 energy from their hand to their Pokemon in any way they like. I actually think this seems pretty decent. That's a lot of energy acceleration for an attack. Usually we see like these energy acceleration attacks being like accelerate 2 energy, which isn't that good, especially when it's on a Pokemon that might get stuck in play and lose a bench space too. Accelerating like 2 energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. It's not a great trade-off, especially when your energy attachment for a turn is going to the Pokemon that is then accelerating that energy, of course. But 3 energy is a different story. Now, it does come from your hand instead of your deck or discard pile, which obviously would be a little bit stronger. But the trade-off, of course, is that or I mean, I guess part of that is that your opponent gets to do the same. So if it came from the deck, that would make this card extremely weaker. But like theoretically, your deck is built around getting energy into your hand to utilize with Happy Present, and your opponent's deck probably isn't. So they're not going to be having as strong of a not going to be able to do as much from your attack on that turn, of course. So there is that involved. So I don't know. I think this is like a pretty decent attack. I don't think we have anything in format right now that it would line up super well with, but yeah, remember this one for the future for sure. Remember the Delibird here. Up next, we got the Ampharos. I forget if I've talked about the Ampharos or not. I don't think I have. Now, the Ampharos itself has an ability that says if you and your opponent have the same number of cards in your hands, you do 80 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. We have Judge in the format. There's that other Grass Stage 2 that forces your opponent's hand to 4, but it probably doesn't work super well with this. Flash Bolt. Lightning Colorless, 140. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Flash Bolt. But the true power of this card, I think, comes through the combination of Relicanth and its Stage 1, the Flaffy with the Disconnect attack. During your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand for a Lightning and a Colorless. There could be something there. Still don't have super high hopes for this card. Probably won't be competitive. Maybe a cool meme deck, though, because you could, get Relicanth in play, match the hand sizes, and the Synchronized Pulse would increase the damage your Ampharos would be doing with the disconnect of your Flaffy through the Relicanth, allowing you to use your previous evolution's attacks. 120 item lock is theoretically pretty good, but it's on a relatively low HP, 1 prize Pokemon that does need multiple energy to attack with, so Electric would also probably have to get involved for some form of energy acceleration to kind of chain Ampharos and Flaffy attacks, but it's something to keep in mind, I think, at the very least. Moving along here, I'm trying to remember if there's any other Pokemon to go over. I don't know if I talked about the Metagross. I think I did talk about the Metagross. There is the Mega Dragalge EX here, Corrosive Liquid for 2 colors. Discard all tool cards and special energy from all of your opponent's Pokemon. I don't know, in some far-off, distant format and metagame where tool cards are probably never going to be that strong, but special energy, I mean, we could see something like an Archeops Lugia deck be printed again in the future at some point. That could be pretty powerful, but as of right now, that is an extremely weak attack, and I don't see, like, it's hard to predict ever getting to a format like that where it's like, oh my gosh, Corrosive Liquid, insane attack. The second attack, though, is actually not bad. It is a Water and a Dark, which is a little bit of an awkward energy typing matchup there. Crispin might have to get involved to make this card work. Of course, it does take Dark Energy. Monkey Dory also takes Dark Energy. Crispin's pretty good with Monkey Dory, so there's probably something there. Your opponent's active is now poisoned. During Pokemon checkup, you hit 16 damage counters on that Pokemon instead of 1. So you effectively 2-hit KO most things in the format if they stay poisoned going back into your turn. And of course, that is the big if they retreat or switch. or anything like that. They'll remove the poison. The damage won't build up, and you'll do 160 damage, which still 2-hit KOs to opponent's Pokemon if you have a little bit more damage to work with. That's only 320 total. So stuff like, I guess Charizard EX rotates. So what's another good example? Every Mega Pokemon gets out of range of 160, 160. So you need a little bit of help from like the Poison Stadium or like Monkey Dory building up damage somehow. Something like that will also have to get involved to actually get to the number where you're effectively 2-hit KOing your opponent's active Pokemon, or even effectively 1-hit KOing it by them getting stuck in the active and going into your turn. What does this evolve from? It evolves from Scrub. Oh, it's a stage 1? Oh, wait, this card is way better than I thought it was. I thought this was a stage 2. That's not that bad. Where's the Skrelp? Skrelp is Psychic, right? Is there no Skrelp in this set? Are we using previous Skrelps? What? I don't even know what the Skrelp does. Hang on, let me look up the... I was like, hold on. First, I thought it was a stage 2. But now that I know it's a stage 1... You know, I don't think Dragalge has, like, ever been good. But the fact that Wait. Okay, there's definitely a Skrelp in this set. Has the Skrelp not been revealed? Is there, like, a Psychic Pokemon missing in the... I assume it would be Psychic, right? Isn't that what Skrelp is? 31, 32, 33, 34? Alright, I'm kind of lost. I don't know where the Skrelp is. Is it dark? Oh, there it is! It's dark type. Okay, there's the Skrelp. Okay, the Skrelp was actually... I wish I had never even gone on my way to find this. It's 70 HP, calls attack for 10 damage. Next, we got the Goodra here. Gumi and the Sliggoo. Nothing crazy, but the Goodra's got a pretty interesting ability. I could see something here in some kind of disruptive stall style deck. When your opponent's active Pokemon retreats, your opponent flips a coin. If tails, that Pokemon does not retreat, and your opponent does not discard energy from retreating, this ability's effect cannot stack. Now, you can only use one. If you could use multiple, you can set up like 4 of these things, and then like perma-trap one of your opponent's Pokemon in the active. That would be obnoxious. This thing would probably be pretty good as some kind of stall deck. But only use one ability per turn or per retreat of your opponent's Pokemon, which definitely limits its effect quite a bit, but it's still annoying to deal with. And if you get some other disruptive cards involved around this, I could see this actually being pretty decent as an inclusion in some kind of control style deck. So yeah, keep the Goodra in mind if you're a control fan. Up next, we got the Patrat. Watchful Eye. If this Pokemon is in play, you and your opponent can't move damage counters to another Pokemon. A very obvious counter towards 2 for the Monkey Dory card. Of course, is completely shuts down Monkey Dory's ability entirely, more so than Watchtower, Battle Cage ever did. Watchtower is actually a counter to the Patrat, actually, which is kind of interesting. So, play a Monkey Dory deck with Watchtowers to be able to get around the Patrat. There could be something there actually as like a counter card. Although I do kind of like that idea as like a counter to the counter, unlike something like a Shaman. I mean, or even a Psyduck. Like Shaman is a little bit harder of a counter to damage sniping than Psyduck is to like Dusknoir. Of course, because we have Klefki in the format, and one of the main users of Psyduck is Dragapult, which can like snipe it off the bench with Hawlucha. I guess it's still kind of obnoxious to deal with the Psyduck, but Patrat here, there's a counter to the counter, and that is Watchtower. I don't know if we'll go that far. I think if people are playing Patrat, people probably just won't play Monkey Dory, but you never know. There is this Watchhog here as well, which I think is worth mentioning, because its first attack is actually not terrible. So if you are playing the Patrat as a Monkey Dory counter, it's possible you'd want to include the Watchhog. Unannounced check for a single colorless energy, flip 3 coins. If any are heads, look at your opponent's hand and choose any cards as the number of heads. Your opponent shuffles those cards into their deck. So that's like not bad. In fact, are things coming together here a little bit for me? Is the Talonflame down here? Ooh, okay, hold up. Hear me out. Talonflame. During your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. But first, we look at their hand, we get rid of all the good cards, and then we discard the other cards. I'm just saying, there might be announced check and lock them, like unfair stamp, unannounced check. And then you start to discard their hand after you like boss up something and trap it in the end. There could be something there. That's all I'm saying. There could be something there. Maybe not. Chinchino EX here, Smooth Coat. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attack, flip a coin. If heads, prevent that damage. Energized Slap for a single colorless energy, 40 damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So the big question for me for the Chinchino is how are we getting the energy on the Chinchino? We got stuff like the electric. I was like trying to like remember what the name of the card was. Electric could work with this. And then we also have things like Emboar. I think those are like the main ones. You could like play a Mega Fire Pokemon and then use Oricorio, but that sounds kind of weird. Matang is also a possibility. Matang plus Energy Recycler is a combo. The Minccino here has takedown, 30 damage. Pretty cool because it KOs Badoo. And then finally, getting to the big trainer cards that were revealed. The first one, special red card. We do have a hand disruption card returning to the game. We're only going to take one set off. I know we have Judge. Judge is technically a hand disruption card, a win condition hand disruption card. Judge really isn't a win condition hand disruption card unless you're like turn one, going second, judge your opponent, hope they break. But that's not, you don't want that to exist as like a real win condition in the game. And it doesn't really exist as a real win condition in the game. But you can only play this card if your opponent has 3 or less prize cards remaining. Your opponent shuffles their hand and puts it to the bottom of their deck. Then your opponent draws 3 cards. So it is limited until your opponent has drawn 3 prize cards. But that's still pretty good. Like, this is a very interesting card, and we'll definitely see. The cool thing about a card like this is like how you can play around it. If your opponent has like 3 2-prizes in play, or like a mega, instead of KOing the mega and then putting yourself in a special red card range, you could KO a 2-prizer. And then even if you don't feel like fully set up to KO another 2-prizer on the next turn, you could wait. You could just not draw a prize card or set up to take a knockout, and then the next turn go into that 3-prize range, opening yourself up to the disruption of the special red card. So we can see a little bit more posturing in games as far as that goes, where players don't have to draw prize cards or don't want to draw prize cards because they don't want to walk into a special red card. It's a little bit different with something like Unfair Stamp, because Unfair Stamp can be played whenever you take a knockout, so you can't kind of progress your win condition while also trying to avoid the card, except if you're playing like a spread deck or like a Dragapult, where you can put damage in play without taking knockouts, but it still progresses towards winning the game in the same amount of turns, or maybe 1 turn slower, but it's worth the trade-off of not getting Unfair Stamped. But you have to take KOs at some point to win the game, as most decks. You can't just sit there and never draw prize cards, where a special red card, you can draw some prize cards or take certain knockouts to avoid going in that 3-prize range, to avoid special red card for a little bit longer, to be a little bit more set up, a little bit more prepared to get your hand disrupted. So it'll be an interesting card. It'll bring around some interesting gameplay as well. I think it'll definitely be played. I think it's good we have a hand disruption, a more powerful hand disruption card like this in the format than not. Having like just Judge or something like that just isn't quite as good. I would have preferred just to see Iono get reprinted, I'm not going to lie, but I'm happy we have something. It is in the form of an item card, which also brings around different power uses or a different power level of a card, where you can like play special red card and boss's orders in the same turn. So it'll be interesting. Excited to have a hand disruption card. We're only taking a single format off before we're getting more hand disruption. Up next, we got the Book of Transformation, which is a card we've seen in the past, but it's coming at us in a different way this time in the form of an item card. You must play 2 Book of Transformation cards at once. This effect works only 1 time for the 2 cards. Choose a basic Pokemon in your discard pile and switch it with one of your basic Pokemon in play. Any attached cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. So it is Thornton. I was trying to think of the name of the card. Thornton is the name of the card. It is Thornton in item form, but you have to play 2 at once. Now, we've seen the 2 at once cards in the past: Cross Switchers, Custom Catchers, Puzzle of Time, Pokedrawer Plus, Pokeblower Plus. We've had actually quite a few now that I'm thinking about it. And they're bringing it back with Book of Transformation. Always a cool effect to exist in the Pokemon TCG. This current take on it seems a little awkward to pull off if you're not playing a Noctowl deck. And then at that point, it have to probably be some Terra Box style of deck, but very cool to see it in the game once again, and we'll see how it plays out. And I think that's it for the new cards. A new Fire Energy here. If an attack used by a Fire Pokemon this card is attached to would be discarded, or would discard this card, put into your hand after applying damage and effects of that attack. Super underwhelming, low value special energy card here. It only goes back to your hand if the Fire Pokemon used an attack that would discard it. Be a little bit cooler if it was also if that Fire Pokemon that had this attached got KO'd. Like, if the card would ever be discarded from a Fire Pokemon, put it into your hand instead. Even that wouldn't be that strong, I don't think. So this is just hella mediocre. It's not very good at all. It's like, I mean, you might see it get played in a Fire deck, but it's not going to feel like a massive upgrade in the deck, I don't think. Even in something like a Charizard Y deck, like, you have no way to accelerate this energy into play besides it being your manual attachment. And most Fire decks have a lot of energy in them because that's just how Fire cards work. So having like an extra energy that you'd be able to get a little bit more value out of because it goes to your hand, playing it in a deck that has an attack that discards it to begin with is, you know, very small buff to that deck theoretically. I mean, comparing to the other special energy that they're coming out with, it's probably the weakest of all of them so far. I mean, the water energy is pretty specific, metagame specific, only prevents the special conditions. The metal energy is super good, giving the free retreat, of course. And I forget what the other ones we have so far. We got the grass one. The psychic one is obviously broken. The grass one is also decent. The plus 20 HP to a grass Pokemon, and the fighting one is very similar to the water one, where it's like super format metagame specific, where you'd want to include it or not include it. And that's it. Those are all the new reveals. Like I said, the full Ninja Spinner set has been revealed. Catch y'all in the next video.